subscribe to this continued, quite literally, book reading of the books in Library of Ruina. You better grab a glass of milk, I don't know, smoke a cigar, drop your pants, whatever you do when you make yourself feel comfortable. Today we'll most likely, since they're bigger than the ones before, only read through Urban Plague and Urban Nightmare, since Star of the City is even bigger and Imperitus Civitatis with the ensemble is huge, as you would, or rather as you could put it. So the Carnival, the first in the Urban Plague. There are many important things to consider as a fixer, and attire is one of them. A fixer's attire is the most effective way to signify the image of an office. It's important for an office to show that it has formality and class. Most offices have set a dress code for that reason. As much as it's necessary to choose the right attire according to the code, the most important factor is the fabric that clothing is made of. Quality fabric can offer better protection, lighten the wearer's weight for quicker movement, or allow the wearer to carry heavy weapons as large as their body. I'd really like to know the technology behind that, actually. Those who create and provide such fabrics are called tailors. We are tailors who consume people and make silk out of them, whether it's melting people inside our belly and congealing them in a mold, or it's unraveling humans into the thread they're really made of. The fundamentals do not matter. This technology doesn't originally belong to us. We merely took hold of a technology that came off patent when a wing was broken. The only thing that matters is that silk made from humans has strength that differentiates it from ordinary thread. Only those who crave it visit us. Cloth weaved from human silk possesses various powers depending on the human strength. Some humans may have a strong body, another may be fragile but wise, and yet another may flaunt incredible speed. Since the silk reflects the characteristics of the human it was made from, there are as many forms and powers of cloth as there are humans in this world. Therefore, there's more to being a tailor than simply weaving silk carefully. Picking the right people to meet the demands of the client is the most important. Hastily making silk out of a human that looks courageous on the outside might end up yielding useless cloth that does nothing but bolster courage. So one must be careful with picking the right material. Not every piece of fabric is accessible, however. It takes more than cash to purchase high-class fabric. One must earn the favor of tailors first and foremost. Many tailors will only give their best fabric once the trust between them and their client has been established after a complex turn of events. Because of that, tailors who make high-quality fabric usually belong to an organization and create cloth exclusively for them. But we were different. Until the Index gave us a press script, we did our work without taking orders from anyone, unchained to any syndicate or other organization. We were free, as some may call it. L8372, number 928. Eat 15 sweepers and extract silk from them to make fabric. So that's a press script. But the ensemble clothes, they weren't made out of this, right? The stuff Tanya stole. Do we know what this was made out of? Because their clothes, of course, were incredibly strong after all. It should have been in the hands of the Fum. They stole it from Sayo, right? Am I remembering things correctly? People will correct me, thank God. Interesting though, it really makes you think. In German there's a proverb that basically says like, it's kind of similar to you are what you eat. In Germany you say something not quite literally translated to you are what you wear, basically, or clothes make people, I think would be the literal translation, what we say in Germany. And it's interesting. You're supposed to dress for the job you want instead of the job you have. Like, that's another one that goes in this direction. And in a way, it's pretty similar, like making clothes out of people. Doesn't this strike you as oddly similar to ego extraction and being able to wear like armor made out of the ego extraction? In Lobotomy Corporation, for example? Big thing, right? The full stop office, Levi. A color is the dream and lifetime goal of all fixers who wish for freedom. Those who have been assigned a color are called the colors. A color is the pride of a fixer and the associations. They put forward the colors as great and successful people that other fixers will look up to. They dream of earning wealth and fame, and to be free like them one day. I said this before, but the fact that people know the colors, but they don't necessarily know either their real names or their faces or whatever. In cases like the Black Silence, it makes perfect sense. However, when you're like the famous, most strongest fix of, I don't know, of all time, or rather currently alive, like Ebura the Red Mist, people should have known what she looks like, right? There must be journalism in this world. But okay, suspension of disbelief when it comes to colors. Maybe this will get explained in another game. Colors are assigned by the Hana Association. They're bundled into such category because the Hana deemed them to be the most ideal fixes, because they're the most adequate individuals to deal with the stars of the city. The title of a color is forcibly given to fixers who qualify, essentially. Can a fixer be truly happy with freedom that was forcefully handed to them? Oh, so it's like, yeah, it's a title that's given to you, kind of like the star of a city. You're now on color tier, basically. Nice. So they decide which color dildo I am? Okay. Why colors of all terms when there are many other stylish words to choose from? I have no comment to make since I don't know the reason myself. My assumption is that colors are used because giving people hues representative of them makes it easier to refer and to remember them by. May not be the answer you were expecting, but it can't be helped. The colors have their own ways of working, and they have basically nothing in common. It's akin to how visible colors have their own vibrant characteristics. In that sense, the term colors isn't entirely off-putting. A little bit sad that we don't learn anything about Li Wai with this one. Stefan, of an undetermined gender. I still don't know. Female? I think? Few fixers use guns for self-defense. Bullets cost an arm and a leg, and foes who are relatively powerful tend to dodge shots like it's nothing, and I can barely graze them. There's not a lot of ways to react to enemies closing in either. You'd have to be quick on the draw and shoot them in the weak spots. If you aren't, the other options are running away or grabbing some prop to guard yourself. Like hell, that'll save you. Take several augmentations procedures to be able to carry something as heavy as a firearm and run fast enough. If you're a sniper, you'll be busy packing up your weapon mount and everything. Have to make unnecessarily big movements. And what if the precious gun gets damaged if you try blocking a foe's attack with it? Oh, I was talking about the kinds of guns me and Tamaki use, not firearms in general. You see what Levi's carrying? I heard there are lighter rifles, some that come with bayonets for close quarter combat. Like the farm uses, I believe. But mind you, those guns have their fair share of downsides, so don't be too quick to buy them. You might as well save the money and get a quality workshop weapon or an augmentation surgery instead. Hell, you could probably buy a fine weapon with the money it takes to buy bullets for target practice. You weren't planning on using guns in actual fights without even practicing, were you? I mean, go ahead, if you really want dislocated shoulders and severed fingers. Is it really that bad? Like any Americans in my audience that can tell me that? Despite all this, there still are workshops that manufacture guns and people like us who use them. Guns are just that comfortable to use. Those heavy taxes won't be a problem as long as you use your gun for its intended purpose. I think there's a typo there. How many defenseless fucks standing in the middle of the street, pardon me, can notice a bullet flying towards them? Of course, it would be better to it would be even better to get specially made workshop devices that use a special technology to muffle the sound of gunfire, but don't expect too much. There's currently no technology in our world that can completely cancel out noise, and it won't exist in the foreseeable future. You don't need that to make guns work though. All it takes is an advantageous situation. Whoa, that's a pretty big thing to drop in here. There's no technology to muffle noises completely. You'd think that this would be feasible with the stuff they have singularity wise, but maybe there's a reason for that. Huh. And Tamaki's page. There aren't many workshops that can craft guns. Setting aside the low demand, the difficulty of acquiring a firearms manufacturing license, and the head strict guidelines are the biggest limitations. The guidelines include clauses such as the maximum length of the gun barrel must be shorter the higher the gun's caliber is. Whoa, what? No gun should possess the firepower to penetrate steel or building walls. A gunfire sound must be audible. Oh, here we go. Maybe that's the reason why they haven't even tried to venture in this direction. And I haven't even started with the bad ones yet. The first page of the guideline boldly states, do not research or imagine technology that infringes the firearm manufacturing guidelines as provided by the head along with the license. I'm not a gunsmith myself, so I don't know the details, and frankly, I don't want to know any more than that. There certainly are workshops permitted to make S-class firearms, but I'm guessing only 3 to 5 of them exist in the entire city. Who do they take requests from? Where they are? And what kind of people run them? They're all a mystery. The most I could hear was a rumor that an S-class workshop exists somewhere. People say that the head put heavy restrictions on firearms because they don't want its denizens to be harmed too easily. It's true that a gun can effortlessly kill a person with one well-placed shot. That's not all. The assailant doesn't have to show themselves to attack, and a flying bullet is simply too fast for the average person to track with their eyes, making it a fine weapon for stealthily killing others. But making it harder to kill people doesn't seem good enough a reason to impose such restrictions. What about the countless other trifling and useless methods that exist to kill people? I just cannot understand that they would see this as a solely philosophical issue. Are you asking if it's because the Wings don't have sufficient technical expertise? I'm not here for senseless chatter. The Wings could easily make superior weapons with their technology. There's no real reason they couldn't improve upon their current designs. There are probably some people who feel the same as me. They don't question it further or try to dig deeper into the truth because, well, they have their hands full with making their ends meet, and they don't want to risk losing it all meddling in business secrets, I suppose. It's very 2021 of you, Tamaki. Wow. Yeah, it's curious, huh? We had sniper rifles in Lobotomy Corporation. That worked quite well. It's such a dumb argument to make, though. Oh, guns are too efficient at killing people, even though we don't even really care if people die in the first place. So there must be another reason. Just as I, think that the head hates Angela because the head itself is an AI, there must be a reason why the head is afraid of guns that much, or wants to restrict them as much as possible. Again, maybe in a future game. Dawn Office. We're gonna start with Yuna's page on this one instead of Salvador. Audio transcript of testimony from District 22, Resident 1. Omitted. I think it was last Monday. Derry said something strange to me. They told me they made a contract with someone and they're scared that they might break it. They said they don't know what horrifying penalty they'll have to face upon breaking the contract. I tried to calm them down, saying they should be fine as long as they don't actually breach the contract. But Derry got ticked off and complained that it's unfair how they're supposed to comply with the unfavorable terms hidden in the fine print. Then they broke into tears, saying they're doomed anyway. They apparently agreed to do 3 tasks in exchange for gaining power. Ooh, kind of like a, what's it called? Like a deal with the devil, but there's a certain other term for this. Audio transcript of testimony from District 22 Resident 2 this time. You have to recall that messed up memory. Alright, if it's necessary to prevent another incident from happening, I guess there's no choice. You can record it, sure. I don't remember everything that happened actually. That day was just like any other day, except Derry showed up in the streets after going missing for a few days, looking awfully gaunt. Other than that, the weather was normal and the streets were the same as always. I know, that's when the incident started. Derry was walking the street as they mumbled something, but they didn't seem to be heading to a specific destination. It's like they were staring off into space and forcibly dragging their feet along. They said strange things like, something keeps coming or boiling. They were always a bit of a weirdo, so that didn't bother me too much. But then, Derry's body began swelling up. All I could think at that moment was how funny they looked, expanding like a balloon. The scene was that unrealistic. Maybe it was a shock of confronting an unbelievable situation paralyzing the human brain, or the brain beginning to believe that it's only a dream and marveling at the scene. But I was just standing still and staring at what was going on. Am I really in reality? Before I could gather myself up, the incident happened. Derry's body blew up and weird needles went where? Mrs. Madrid, who was standing in front of me, was struck with one of the needles, and her body swelled up and exploded into a shower of needles, just like Derry did. Luckily managed to get away without getting hit by any needles. I ran right into this office without turning back once, and now, I don't think I can get back there. I wonder if anyone else lived. If my friend's Mijin's alright, if my house is fine. I'm curious, but I just can't go back. I can't do it. What do I do? I don't want to go back to... The interviewee's breath became coarse and unstable afterwards. The recording was suspended as it was deemed that the interview could no longer proceed. Yeah, Yuna was investigating something. She was clearing a case by herself when she returned. I mean, the deal with the devil thing sounds awfully, and also the imagery we've seen, I believe, of the picture that was shown during her story segment. It seemed awfully Pluto-ish, I believe. Salvador! Oh, here we go. We got more about the 1,000 Needles. Case name 1,000 Needles. Serial code DN00113. Great urban legend. Date of occurrence sometime on the 21st, I guess. Description: this document is a compilation of relevant information on the case of the 1,000 Needles, which occurred in the backstreets of District 22. While a clear conclusion on this case has yet to be made, it is speculated to be a case of the distortion based on the apparent inability to confirm the cause or analyze the composition. Case report: Entity A01, the first apparent source of the incident, was wandering the backstreets of District 22 before swelling up and exploding. Numerous needles were dispersed upon the explosion, flying in all directions. The needles, which stuck onto building walls, caused the site of impact to melt and crack. When a human was struck with one of the needles, they were transformed into A02, going through the same bizarre process of detonation A01 did. The orange symbol on the nape of A01's neck was also found on the needles discharged from its body. When I arrived at the scene after taking the request, the bits of flesh scattered around the streets began to merge into one giant body using a brain-stamped focus resonator. Becoming a 3 meter tall, about 10 feet, mass that I will refer to as A03. A03 began throwing large needles, the length of which varied from 1 to 3 meters. It's like 1/3 of its own body. Unlike the small, the length of its own body. Unlike the small needles fired from the explosion of AO1 or AO2 that could only leave small dents on building structures, the giant needles flung by AO3 caused buildings to helplessly melt. In addition, local residents who stared into the entity's eyes or holes in its body soon produced a boiling sound before turning into AO2, so had to forbid people from observing it closely. AO1 visited OO office to give a request 4 days prior to the incident. Refer to the audio transcript of testimony from a fixer of OO office. Judging by what they said, such as made a deal with the devil and terrible things will happen if I break the contract, it is speculated that, here we go, yesterday's promise is behind the incident. And here we go, the testimony from the fixer office. I'm fine, can I just talk like this? Oh, okay, got it. When was it? A person visited our office last Wednesday, if my memory serves me right. They introduced themselves as an ordinary resident of the back streets of District 22 and said they urgently needed help. There were huge bags under their eyes and their hair was a tangled mess. Their eyes were lifeless and blurry. And there was some sort of symbol on their neck, as if they'd been attacked by a Stigma workshop product. Oh, that's interesting. The desperation was palpable. They couldn't even walk straight, and they were straining to approach me with their awkward steps. I managed to calm them down, and they said, "I'm sorry, I'm not sure how I should explain it." In short, they made a contract with a devilish person of some kind, and they're scared that they might break the contract, so they were now asking us to take care of the devil so it can't kill them as punishment. I still don't get what that was about, even though I'm talking about it. To be frank, I just couldn't understand what they were saying. Not just because the level of knowledge and manner of speech was lamentably inferior, no. All they uttered was a series of simple words, but the splendid images delivered in those hysteric words they let out, like they were possessed by something. I can't dare to describe them. They kept saying confusing things like, "We'll skewer people's heads and make a necklace out of them to offer to it." They keep getting closer, they're multiplying in numbers. They're approaching from inside me, all with a mysteriously bright glint in their eyes. Oh, our office records counseling with our clients by principle. You'll see how confusing the whole situation was if you give this file a listen. Don't worry, we record them with the client's consent and everything, so there's nothing illegal about this. Refer to the evidence, office counseling audio recording. But what can I do, really? The whole deal with the devil thing just sounds too unrealistic. I honestly thought they were lying, so I made up an excuse to turn them away. It's interesting how this case resolved itself by basically imploding. They didn't do anything. Pluto got away with it. And the gays office. Bono. People are hung up on money, but it's not just because they want to be well off. The formidable tax burden is a big part of why. No matter how humble your job is, you're still obliged to pay your duties if you earn money. Goes for every type of business transaction. Even syndicates are no exception. Anyone living in the city has to pay taxes. If you don't meet the deadline, you'll get a warning. For the first 3 offenses, you'll get a notice of warning and no other penalty. But if you don't pay your taxes for the 4th time, then you're dead meat. They'll come for you. The eye will seek out tax evaders by any means, and the person it sends will rip those poor cheats to shreds. Seems like a common theme that the robot themed people in the game all have something to do with money, right? I mean, not necessarily just money, but I'm specifically thinking of Nemo right now. Nemo was also all about money and patent and business and stuff. Dialogue. The nest is a home where birds brood their eggs. They use their wings to devotedly protect their eggs from outside threat. Such is the role of the nests and wings that constitute the city. Do the eggs represent people inhabiting the nest then? Not a chance. These eggs are the treasures that wings possess. Singularities, technologies that make money, featured in countless patents. Its residents are nothing more than feathers of the wings that serve to protect the eggs. A wing will end up falling when it loses too many of its feathers, but it won't bother to desperately protect all of its feathers since a feather or two will naturally grow back. They're basically expendables. The 26 wings have their own subsets of culture. Might be the personal preference of the wing's founder or the influence of the singularity, but the cultural styles and social atmosphere vary vastly between the nests. The wing's policies also determine the culture of the back streets that belong to it. Each wing has distinct sets of conduct. Some wings take a relatively cooperative approach to the back streets, while others thoroughly exploit them. But wings will be wings. Cooperation is just a fancy expression for taking advantage of the back streets when the wings need them. If you can't afford to enter a wing and have to live in the back streets, you're best off settling in a district that suits you well. You'll still need a home and source of income, of course. That's an interesting thing, actually. Like each nest, each district, each wing is so different to each other culturally that it makes sense that some of them, they knew where they were going when they named the different associations and stuff, different numbers in different languages, basically. Because how else would you show? How do I put this? What better way to show how different they are than to include different cultures in real life, basically? Like the Germans and the Chinese and the Koreans and the English, and so well made. Damn, Project Moon. Alok. I love his design. The code and the... It's not a pocket watch. Kane Office is a notary public office that officially administers various matters when a contract is made between two offices. Oh, a notary public office preserves evidence involved in contractual processes and certifies legal issues. Sometimes the office may play the role of a broker. When you work with Kane Office, the process you have to follow will usually be simple outside of a few special cases. All you need to do is make a summary of all the details for the deal you're making and visit the office. And don't forget to take all the relevant documents with you. Notarial deed of promissory note, migration permit for the nest or the back streets of District 00, deed of forward contract, and everything else related to the deal. If you safely finish your business with Kane Office, those documents will become powerful pieces of evidence that will protect you in case a dispute breaks out for whatever reason. I wonder how often they have actual court proceedings, or how just the law is. How just is the head when it comes to squabbles between smaller offices or something? How is the legal system in the city? Huh? What do they eat? What is their tax system? Actually, we know about this. Okay, Kurokumo Clan. I think starting from now, I'll always start with the lowest page and go up to the purple page, or orange page, basically. A Kurokumo Henchman's page. You hear the news? We're about to collide with Kingfishers again. Kingfishers? Don't remember that name at all. Were they a real thing? You know, the syndicate that's been struggling with violence and feuds between members recently. They seem to be getting back on their feet after raiding the Constellars, but it looks like that didn't last long. They were relevant chumps, so I completely forgot about them. The Knots seem to be after them. Maybe they finally hit them. I wouldn't join the Knots, just saying. Weaklings will get hounded. And now they've been trying to invade our territory, desperate to loot anything. Doesn't matter. The names wouldn't be so unmemorable if they were any strong. Taking them down shouldn't be a problem. And the fixers at Clam Office that were cooperating with them from the back are gone too. Clam? What are they about? Clams, I guess. Maybe they were like a tanky office. Jin's page. A fallen nest no longer has an owner to protect its inhabitants. What happens to them then? In the wreckage of the nest that gradually turned into an environment similar to the back streets, all they can do is accept horrible deaths, as back streets residents do, or hire a fixer, or pay protection fees to one of the powerful syndicates that enter the nest and be under their care. Some move to a different wing, but this is an exceptionally rare case. The syndicate may charge ridiculously expensive fees, but they will keep you safe for sure once you pay them. If an even stronger syndicate comes in, drives off the others, and asks you to pay a protection fee, then there's no choice but to give your new protectors what they ask for. Oh my god, what a shakedown. They'll protect you with their lives as long as you still have money to pay. The assets will become useless when you die anyhow, so you might as well spend it to extend your life for just a little longer. The former feathers don't have a choice in this matter. If they don't pay the fee, they'll die or get kicked out. Would be a miracle to walk out unharmed. What a nightmare world. There are two kinds of folks who hang around in the back streets at night, the predator and the prey. Pretty much everything going on in the city can be described as savage, but the other parts of the city at least put up the effort to package them in gentlemanly guise. Even a cheap hamburger made from whatever unspeakable ingredients is still wrapped in a modern and rich packing, yeah? On the other hand, the back streets at night are filled with raw and blatant barbarity. Not even a layer of crude cover is there to censor this brutality. No deed is forbidden. No one is held responsible, imagining the most appalling, vulgar and filthy deed you can think of. I won't dare say beyond your imagination since I have no idea how insane you might be, but I can guarantee that whatever you're thinking casually happens somewhere in the dark alleys of the back streets at night. A man and a woman holding hands? Seriously? At night as well? Outside of their bedroom? Not even married yet? Jesus Christ, those filthy degenerates. Despite all that, people still inhabit the back streets. They doggedly? What kind of word is that? They doggedly struggle and survive in their own ways there. That's a funny word, I have to look that up. And the big Sayos. The hand of the back streets is possibly the biggest reason no one dares to take care of the lawless land that is the back streets. No associations or wings can touch it, and not even the head itself can easily interfere. Well, the 5 syndicates at the apex of the back streets are called the Thumb, the Index, the Middle, the Ring, and the Pinky, namely. They parcel out districts of the back streets and comprehensively manage the territories, and periodically hold meetings to efficiently control the back streets. They call this conference the Finger Bow Bell. Yeah, we heard about this one. I'm uncertain as to whether this name is meant to suggest that they actually make pinky swears not to invade each other's territories, or if they call it as such simply because the fingers gather in one place. The mind of high-ups is a mystery, truly. Going back to the topic, when the Finger Bow Bell nears, all members of the 5 Fingers will try to avoid conflict and refrain from causing big problems. It's thanks to the leaders of each syndicate who caution their subordinates that fights between smaller syndicates could grow into a massive conflict between the big ones, perhaps. If subsidiary syndicates ran into trouble, the seniors at the Finger Bow Bell would be faced with quite the embarrassment now, wouldn't they? Organized crime. Seems to be very organized in the city. The Musicians of Bremen. Oink oink, oink's page. The 7 Association is a fixed association specializing in investigation and intelligence, and it's knowledgeable in pretty much every affair that takes place in the city. Details about the syndicate gaining infamy in the back streets of some place, the association probably knows what district it is exactly, but I left before I checked the details of it. All the information revealed about the distortion phenomenon which has been going around lately, when and where fixed offices start up and close business, and the beat goes on. The association treats all kinds of information about the city. Oh, they don't have access to top secret intels like the secrets of the singularities each nest holds, obviously speaking. When they solve cases, they usually cooperate with other associations like the Shi and the Liu. If you ask how the 7 Association can secure its confidentiality, despite holding lots of juicy info that could attract the many, it's likely because its staff aren't bad combatants by any means. They don't use fancy but crude workshop weapons that are basically large amalgamations of various technologies. Regular informants are armed with nothing more than a simple bladed tool. It sounds very underwhelming judging from the weapon alone, but they use the minimum technique with pinpoint precision to take down their foes. When do we read about the 7 Association on Oink's page? Was Oink maybe like... He looks like an office type guy with his getup, so maybe he was a member of them before? Mumu's page. Mumu looks like one of the dudes that was, what's it called? Lulu's friends, like with the hoodies and stuff. They say the back streets are a nigh inhabitable hellscape, but the people here live on somehow. There's lots of people who live in fear every moment, but the others live a pretty normal life. Some think the back streets are totally shady and poorly aged slums, but we do We do have all the amenities we need here. For one, the supermarkets Oink likes aren't as good as those in the Nest, but it's got everything people need. Clothing stores, groceries, dry cleaners, etc. I heard the details are different for each district, so there's that. I'm just telling you how things are where I live. People here aren't too unkind to each other. Those Nest dwellers like to gossip about how we're cruel and dreary and all that, but the truth is, we're doing just fine. Going back to, who was it? Yang? Saying that anything goes at night in the back streets? Alright, Mumu, alright. Oh, and there's tons of good restaurants here. It's a street of flavor after all. Freshly baked meat pies, spaghetti made of special pasta. Your tongue and stomach have a wonderful time if you ever go on a trip to our district. We used to hand over the leftovers from our performance here to local restaurants. The leftovers from our performance. Oh, Jesus. That meat would go to waste if we left it on the spot, so we might as well give it to the people who can make good use of it. Ain't that right? When Woof, Doodle-Doo and Hee-Haw were around, we got enough cho to share with several eateries, but our find was halved since they were gone, and Oink kept making silly mistakes with it and ruined those ingredients too often, so we quit that biz altogether. Which is a tad bit unfortunate. We sometimes got tasty meals for free when we gave them our meat. Yeah, anything goes, remember. And Meow's page. Hee-Haw, Doodle-Doo, Woof, and me. The four of us were moved to the core by the pianist's performance. Oh my god, they just left her out. They fused into this horrible being, but they didn't want to take Meow with them? To recreate the performance half as splendid as what we heard that day, we formed the musicians of Bremen to study the music. We tried flicking strings here and there, playing music while sitting on our backs and even while handstanding. We still couldn't come close to the pianist's level, but we managed to make our own brand of music, something that only the musicians of Bremen can play. Our performance was actually pretty fantastic, you know? Sadly, our time didn't last long. One day a mysterious person approached us and asked us to join his ensemble and perform with him. Woof, Doodle-Doo and Hee-Haw took the offer and left with that guy. I had to stay because of new members that had just joined our band though. Yep, Mumu and Oink. It's kinda uncomfortable to just leave them behind, you know? We can't let them mess around and taint our name either. I've been practicing with them to create a performance that could get a standing ovation once my old bandmates come back. But at their current level of skills, the three would just cluck at these newbies' performance and go back to whatever they were doing. Oddly empathetic of her, right? To stay with the new members. It's cute. Pamela! Basically speaking, people who visit our office are looking for shrewd and precise situational assessment rather than combat prowess. The ability to make quick calculations for various possible scenarios and neutralize or kill the enemy with the least effort. We are hunters of the city. We Wedge pierce the requests we get with swiftness and precision. Of course, our office isn't perfect in every regard, so we're in partnership with a number of other offices. Fixer offices often request others for help when reinforcements or professional aid in specific areas is needed. In the case of our office, we were sister offices with Dawn office, sharing more information than we did with most other partners. Oscar is good friends with Salvador, the man running that office. They've known each other for quite some time, but there's more to the sisterhood than that. Which office excels at analyzing the capabilities of foes, and Dawn office specializes in combat. It's only natural that we go well together. Why were the Wedge stronger than the Dawn then? That's kind of weird. Family's page. Life insurance for fixers is often a sham. A lot of them take your money and never to give it back. Even if you terminate your insurance, they won't. It's not easy for your damage to be insured either. You have to be at death's door to qualify, pretty much. The chances are as low as winning the lottery. And what if you just up and died? What can a dead do with money? You'd be much better off making a savings account for an augment procedure or quality workshop gear. It was a very lucky case. Keep in mind that this isn't the norm at all. Insurance can sometimes be useful depending on its form and conditions, sure, but if you take the pay into account, it still doesn't feel too great. Yeah, but that's the problem with insurances. You pay them every fucking month, or whatever, maybe yearly, and you think, oh, this is so fucking wasted, I will never need this. But once it happens and you do need it, you might be glad that you did it after all. But for as long as you don't need it, it seems wasted. But it's better to pay and not need it after all in a weird ass karma scenario where, like, leaving your house with an umbrella means that it won't rain that day, you know what I mean? Or leaving it without one means that it will rain that day, kinda in that way. Like, the universe is weird sometimes, but it's better to pay it and not need it than to need it and not having paid at all. I guess, maybe. I don't know. That isn't the case for everything, though. Take this statement with a grain of salt, please. The 8 o'clock circus was a real sort of a case. Its leader wasn't a particularly powerful enemy, but it took a long time to assess the strengths and behaviors of each of his crew. There was no specific pattern to it, and it was difficult to predict what would come next. It was akin to watching an erratic circus of lunacy. Their lair was mysterious and terrifyingly bleak, and the crew took hideous forms as well, looking too grotesque to possibly be considered normal living beings. They were as strong as they looked. When the blob, shaped like a lion, bit Pamela with its blunt teeth, her body quite literally blew up on the spot. What? That's not what happens when you bite someone. However, our enemies were slowly brought down from the vantage point, and when they were completely cornered, the leader escaped along with a few of his crew. Even though we couldn't put an end to the case, we decided to prioritize recovering Pamela's body, as we deemed the circus would be weakened enough to stay low for a while. As we stored Pamela's head in a stasis preservation case and headed to the exit of the collapsing circus tent, we ran into a group of fixers. They seemed rather exhausted after fighting a swarm of the crew outside. I suppose that's why they couldn't enter the tent until that moment. It's not uncommon for 2 or more officers of fixers to be present, at a scene of a finished case, so I gently nodded to greet them, identifying ourselves as fixers of Wedge Office who have come here to solve the case. The shortest person among them, the aged-looking woman who appeared to be the representative of that group. Oh, I'm spotting a name ahead of the text. Looked around the circus tent, let out a deep sigh, and introduced herself as Moses of Moses' office, while smoking from a pipe. Moses then started thinking, presumably ruminating over what words to choose. She must have taken a request that's rather tricky to disclose. The 2 people behind her, nervously exchanging glances with each other, appear to be our bodyguards of some sort. Having such trivial thoughts, I waited for this Moses person to resume speaking. After a brief period of silence, Moses breathed out smoke in the other direction and asked me where the leader of the circus went. Since I didn't know much better than them, I told them what I could in brief. They seemed troubled by my unhelpful answer, but they soon accepted it and left the scene. That group reportedly appears every time a case of the distortion is solved. They are allegedly working as the distortion detective, but recent witnesses of their appearance were always followed with a distortion case in the same location. What? Well, it's unclear whether they're involved in this case. I believe there's enough reason to be wary of them. Oh man, so looking forward to continue reading the Distortion Detective and maybe even having a chapter where they meet the Wedge Office. And Jikan, what was that? The Chainlinks. We have a workshop affiliated fixer, the Chainlinks, and Jikan. Fuck, it's been quite long already. How long is Urban Nightmare? Oh, Jesus Christ. It's gonna be a long video. In the city, there are as many workshops as there are unique gadgets, and the Tray Association, or Tres, as is like free in Spanish, is the one responsible for managing those workshops in general. It reviews newly designed weapons, files applications to the head, and charges taxes for them. You can't use the weapons that haven't passed the evaluation. Getting rejection from them basically means they see the weapon as something that shouldn't be used in the city. They aren't too cold about it though. They sometimes send the applicants feedback about how they can improve the designs up to a passable level. Not that we need it, since our latest weapon passed on a first try. It's interesting. A rusted Chainlinks page. Every part of my body's aching. Cloudy bastards. Why are they picking at us so much? Taking some serious damage on our side. Heard the Blade lineage also got messed up. Got any news? But our boss is gonna go out and talk to them. If boss is going alone, wouldn't that be dangerous? The other side's also only sending the top dog or whatever. No need to worry about the boss. Right, the weaklings individually. That's why they like to move in packs. Okay, that didn't tell me much. And Chikan, the rusted chains ain't the biggest syndicate, but each member's got strength to boost the Booten boost. Jesus. The only weapon we use is these spiky chains. Tie 'em, smack 'em, anything goes. We gotta be careful not to get swung or swayed around or bind ourselves with our own metal. My body's full of scars thanks to that, but hey, it's not too bad, is it? It's a cool design and I like their cards, but they were so fucking bad. And now we're off to Urban Nightmare, starting with the She Association. Being an organization that is familiar with dealing death, the Shi's code of honor is to treat every person equally, as the weight of death is equal for everyone. As long as the request fee is paid, we remove the target with no questions asked, regardless of who the client is, what kind of crime they may have committed, or any other details. The boss of a syndicate known for murdering people in cold blood, a criminal wanted by a street somewhere, laundering an identity for a person of higher status who often bribes, even requests to kill one's own friends and family. We handle all requests without leaning to a side. Of course, we have a duty of confidentiality? Fuck this word. To uphold for our clients. We mustn't give in and maintain silence even in the face of immediate threats of death. Such are the rules and mindsets that the Shi Association members must abide by. They were very matter of fact. Like Yujin especially. It seemed like honor over all, basically. And their honor is carrying out their jobs, I guess. However, the recent behavior of the Southern Branch goes against the core values of the Shi. On top of exerting power for his private interests, his selfish actions are causing severe damage to Section 2. All of us are eagerly waiting for Director Eugene to overthrow this rotten system one day. Of course, the Southern Branch guy being manipulated by Argalia, as we have seen in the story. Spoilers but why are you watching this if you don't know about this yet? Tenma's page. From the receipt of the request to preparation for execution, every step of an assassination is carried out covertly. Discreet killing is the Shi Association's specialty. An all-out war in open fields where numerous people clash at once is not our preferred form of battle, though it's one of the areas where the Lu Association excels. We truly shine when we operate in small numbers. We pursue extreme efficiency in order to kill our target within the limited window of opportunity. Also required is the ability to make quick assessments of the situation in order to swiftly strike the target's vital point with minimal movement. The demand for assassinations requests is pretty high these days, as the most surefire way to eliminate people armed with high quality workshop equipment on top of body augments is sneaking up to them for a fatal blow when they least suspect it. Still, the streets aren't being filled with corpses of assassinated targets because there are fixers whose job is to kill those who were hired for assassination. Fixers are continuing the fierce strife no matter the place. It's a fixer-eat-fixer world out there. Valentine's page. Thelma, head of the Southern Branch, has been overworking Section 2 to a nonsensical degree lately. The requests he's giving us are burdensome to take once per week, and he's constantly cramming them down our throats, sapping the strength and will out of our section. It's unclear if we can successfully handle this mission to the library, but it's painstakingly obvious that he'll give us another request to take care of immediately afterwards, even if we could. Most of our surviving crew are losing what little motivation they had left. As for why he insists on using Section 2 when the other sections are available, he's probably trying to get rid of Director Eugene because he suspects that our director knows something about the blue reverberation. It's unacceptable that someone could use a branch leader of an association to make a toy of the entire association, color or not, especially if the goal is to remove our Director Eugene. I'm not sure what plan Director Eugene has to overcome this, but I suppose that can wait until we finished our mission. She had no plan, she basically said, alright, let's go die. Argalia, alias the Blue Reverberation. The person who is known to furtively cause incidents. Recently, he's suspected of recruiting individuals wielding powers that are possibly related to the distortion phenomenon in an attempt to form an organization. As well as prying into his plots, I intend to hamper his efforts myself before collecting data, presenting evidence of his irregular activity to the head. As the Blue Reverberation's plot was already in motion, I needed to act quick and do the least I could to stop him. However, Shi Association was too fatigued from the barrage of requests, so I asked Full Stop Office to deal with the Church of Gears, whose leader seemed to harness a power that resembles the distortion. But I haven't heard from them since. Perhaps they were eliminated in their mission in the hands of the Church, or if the Blue Reverb expected to fix his arrival and toyed with them, then I will definitely have to get to the library and read their books. Oh. There was evident rationale to read the books of the musicians of Bremen as well, for they could contain even the slightest hint on the Blue Reverb's plot. He might have told them. Even I do not know the man in detail, admittedly. However, because I'm certain that the Blue Reverb is conspiring something that violates or will violate the rules stipulated by the head, I must gather crucial evidence and report it. Wow, Eugene is quite a stickler to the rules. I know how corrupt this association is. I'm woefully aware of Thelma's cunning and unhinged purpose behind saddling Section 2 with one request after another and wearing us down. I am but waiting for the right time, waiting and enduring until I seize the chance to bring the she back to glory. I firmly believe that everything will take a turn for the better once I take care of this work. I pledge to change the system with my hands, no matter what. Eugene is quite a tragic character, because if Eugene had been in prime form, she could have easily waltzed through the library at the time, I think. It's interesting though. How analytical she went about. Alright, I need to read the books in order to find out more about Agalia, basically. If only she had known that Levi was basically talking about something else, and what were the others? The other two were just talking about guns. Fucking full stop office. Useless as shit. Okay, public page, page 1. Life in a nest isn't anything special, honestly. It's the same the whole world over. You get packed by your boss and go through mountains of workload. You find yourself working overtime pretty much every day. Payday isn't all that exciting either, when you realize that you barely get any money for yourself after paying for maintenance, credit cards, insurance, living expenses and all that. Most of your income's gone in a flash, and then back to work. I have my ways of enjoying the little things in life though. When I come back home from work, I crack open a cold one and watch the back streets through the window as night falls. When I'm lucky, I can see people chasing each other or getting into a tussle. And I think, oh, I sure hope that person manages to get away. Just being a hypocrite, of course. We're all simply watching it for fun, don't you agree? It's like a TV show. Viewers aren't genuinely concerned for the people on the rectangular screen. All they care about is guessing who will win. So many unrealistic and varied situations take place in the streets, it actually feels as if I'm watching television. Don't call me out for being inhumane. Who knows, maybe someone is watching me work myself to the bones from a high rise, holding a glass of wine in their hand. Who could they be? A puppet, page 2. Money rules this city. Every denizen of the city is obsessed with money to the point of popularizing the beliefs that money can be thrown at almost any problem, I guess. While the earnings of an average nest resident are significantly higher than those of a person inhabiting the back streets, there's also a notable wage gap among the nest inhabitants. One thing to keep in mind is that your position in your job doesn't always guarantee a high income. No matter how high your rank is in a small enterprise, you might not earn much more than a fix in a Section 6 of an association. Even if your financial gain is on the higher side, you likely won't earn enough to waste extravagantly, meaning you won't get to take first-class seats on warp trains all the time, or load the table with a sumptuous feast. However, it will be enough money to secure a stable life in the nest. People who earn 4 million An or more per month can be considered the upper middle class. That's where the quality of life sees a visible increase. You no longer have to worry about being evicted from the nest for being unable to pay taxes, and you can even hire fixers to keep you safe. You can save up in case of emergencies or send your children to better schools. A life lived in a safe haven, free of illness and starvation. Well, that's the life of an upper middle class they talk about. What is there to be considered special? We just earn a bit more than others and live in a bit more comfort than others. Just a tiny bit. Just a little bit. A petit peu. Noah's page. Of course, Noah and Emma both working for... That's not what Emma looked like. Weird, why don't we get Emma's looks? Noah and Emma both working for the nest and still being unhappy despite making a lot of money, I believe. Jacob owns the nest of gambling. Oh, every person here devotes their life to those insane games of chance. Emma and I check the security cameras placed in affiliated facilities and spot anyone who cheats. We get hundreds of calls each day. Please check if the person in the dark red coat at N9281R231 used a sleight of hand to switch cards. I think my table was rigged at Q1980F1929. I think they're using marbles that weigh 0.1 gram more and the roulettes at K1928R029, etc. A variety of creative and absurd calls flood the lines all the time. I didn't know Jacob was about gambling. What's so difficult about watching the security feed all day, you ask? Sure, you could think that if you're unfamiliar with how things work here, but imagine having to check the feeds for tens and even hundreds of rooms that have 10 cams each. The workload is spread over multiple people, of course, but each of us still has dozens of screens to stare at. Makes my eyes spin like a top. Besides, some people are sneaky enough to pull trickery off camera, and some incidents might occur during maintenance hours. This job is such a busy one, 2 eyes just aren't enough. When you're checking one case, another call comes in. When you're done checking that, no more calls await you. The shortage of manpower is driving me crazy, I swear. The sentence about the eyes not being enough and Noah getting another set of eyes from Emma. Oh, beautiful. Each nest has its singularity. For example, W Corp has warp, a fast and reliable means of transportation that's guaranteed to deliver you to your destination on time. F Corp has fairies, which can unlock anything that's considered locked, physically or conceptually. What is a conceptual lock? Like, someone locking something in their mind? Is it like a torture device as well? Maybe to extract secrets? G Corp has spheres that can control gravity and so on. J Corp's singularity is pretty much the opposite of F Corp's. It's a technology that can lock and seal something that's open or exposed on a conceptual level. But is F Corp stronger or is J Corp stronger? Of course, the range or size of things that can be locked will depend on how much you pay. Cheap ones are mostly used for locking small boxes and other personal objects, while expensive ones can seal an area of space so nothing can come inside, or even lock a person's body to prevent it from being dissected. The technology has a pretty wide range of applications. We can lock basically anything that's open in one sense or another. Could it be that the singularity was created because our nest where Jacob is located is a nest of gambling that holds a smart few secrets that shouldn't be leaked? Beats me. Not like anything good will come out of knowing the real reason anyway. Ooh, very interesting, very vague. I love that. The sweepers. A sweepers page. If the night in the back streets were to be gone, the back streets will fall into worse chaos than before. In other words, the night in the back streets is the rain that keeps this place in check. Because the night exists, people here show the least amount of human decency. Here's an example. You come home at the end of a hellish day. Dragging your weary body to the sofa, you hope to get a small break lying on the couch and watching cheap entertainment shows. But guess what happens? Some crazy jerk upstairs turns up the speakerphone's volume to the max and makes obnoxious noises that make a ceiling shake. Too bad, there goes your peaceful respite. You can't stand noise that's getting to your head, so you decide to ask your neighbor to please be considerate and lower the volume. You want to talk this over without a fight, so you battle a furious urge a million times before you go upstairs. But then our unfriendly neighbor gives you a baffling reply when you confront them. I need some free time for myself too. I have gripes with my neighbors that I just live with, so you should do the same. I make a huge fuss about the noise when it isn't even too loud, blah blah. Talking out of their ass. What can you do though? Barely keeping your boiling anger inside, you go back down to your house, covering your ears with a pillow and yelling curse words as you try to sleep. Even if you told your landlord about it, they'd shrug off your complaint and smile like a saint, so there's no use speaking up about it. That's when the night of the back streets comes into play. First off, you block the entrance to that shithead's house before they return. Anything works. You could weld the door, use wooden planks, padlock the door, or whatever. Ensure that they can't enter their own house by any means and go back to your home. Sometime later, they'll come back to find that the door to their house has been sealed shut. They'll struggle with the door before giving up, and they'll make a serious face as though they're trying to think of who could have done this ridiculous prank to them. Once they realize that it couldn't possibly have been anyone else's doing it but yours, it'll be too late, because you'll be behind them, bashing their head in with a brick or some heavy object. Killing them right now would obviously break the rules, so you drag them to your house and enjoy a quiet rest. When the clock hits 3 AM, you drag the little shit outside and throw it in the middle of a relatively large street. You return to your home before it's too late and watch the scene from the window. The time is 3:13 AM. Sweepers crawl out of the dark and sweep the streets clean, collecting all the trash, including that noise pollutant. That was a beautifully written story. Oh, that was so good. I knew where it was going, almost right off the bat, but it was still written so nicely and so roundabout of the intention. Oof. Valerie's page. The back streets are our main stage of activity at night. When night falls, our world unfolds. At regular intervals, we start marching from the perimeter of a nest and sweep everything as we move forward, even if someone stands in our way and attacks us. Even if a powerful fixer kills a sweeper next to us who was our family, we pay no heed and continue onward. Like a wave of water, we sweep everything in our way, except for those who are strong enough to resist it. From an edge of a nest to the opposite end, we march without break for 80 minutes, until the night in the back streets ends. Does it always start at 3:13 and goes on for 80 minutes, which is like an hour and 20 minutes, so it goes until 4:33. 4:33. I didn't know they were like imposing such rules upon each other. Lila's page. That is correct. We are conscious of the attention of people during the daytime. We practice caution. It would be a public nuisance to show up in broad daylight and cause a ruckus, and we have a set of rules that we abide to. Of course, if the head demands our service, we must assemble day or night. Wow, the head can actually give the sweepers contracts? Oh, and I believe there's a small misunderstanding between us. It is not by the will of us sweepers that the night in the back streets has become a time when no deed is forbidden. Does it appear to you that every denizen of the back street disapproves of the rules? Anyone is allowed to commit terrible acts at night, and there's nowhere to complain if you're victimized. While this means terrible things can happen to you at night, it also means that you are free to be the perpetrator of such a deed yourself. In fact, we do not see much benefit from the freedom of the nighttime, other than being allowed to dine all we want. So they're merely like a phenomenon stemming from the night in the back streets. And the night in the back streets is kind of like, wasn't there a movie like that? The Purge or something? Where once a year, like for one day, you're allowed to do whatever you want or something. Like it's a very, very dumb concept actually. And I think the movie must have been even dumber, but yeah. Anton's page. Our body is composed of liquid. Liquid is the substance that fuels our body. Yeah. Trying not to name a liquid here. While humans maintain the form with the shell they call flesh and skin, we maintain our form with the suit we wear. If this liquid runs out, we will stop dead in place. This one, okay. Therefore, the liquid must always be filled, which is the reason we dine. This liquid is what constitutes and moves our body, but we also use the liquid to sweep the streets and dine. The method is simple. When we embed a hook connected to the fuel tank on our back into a human, they melt like a liquid. Then we consume that liquid to refuel. Without this shell, we would deform and spill on the ground like them. The liquid is patented with the approval of the head. You must change your body to become like us if you wish to join our family. Do not worry about side effects. Mother will give you all the assistance you need. We all could safely become a family thanks to her. Again, some things in the city are weirdly more organized than you thought they would be. Also, people have been talking to me in sweeper language. Where did they get that from? How do you learn sweeper language? I still think they tried to trick me by pretending they could. The Index Proselytes. An Index Proselytes page. No two prescripts are the same in any way, as well as their contents being completely different from each other. You can't expect when and where you'll receive one. Could be placed between the patties of the hamburger you're holding, could be in your mailbox, could be handed to you by a passerby. However, if you question who delivers those prescripts or where they come from and put your curiosity into action, the proxies will come for you, so beware. Wait, I thought the messengers delivered the prescripts, like Jan did in his story, right? He gave out prescripts. But prescripts can just appear at any given time? Who puts the prescript in the patty? Is it another prescript given to someone? Oh yeah, put this piece of paper in a patty at exactly 3:13 in the afternoon, which is, by the way, the same time, and I was desperately trying to not use the same time, well, it's in the afternoon instead of the night, as the sweepers come. Whatever, let's not think too much about this. Here's a few examples of the prescripts. To Remy, deliver bacon pizza to Danny's doorstep on 8th Street before 10 AM sharp on September 14th. Oh, I want a pizza right now, I'm so hungry. To Jimin, do not utter a single word for 5 days. How do they find out if he failed this, like by himself? To Sihi, if the first person you meet outside today answers your greetings by lifting their right hand, take their heart out. If the person ignores your greetings, remove your own heart from your body. How would you even do that? And this is only scratching the surface of the shambolic orders written on the prescripts. What is shambolic? What is that word? Someone please do a wiki for me. The contents of a prescript range from ordinary tasks to things that cannot be carried out in relatively normal, in terms of morality, means. The errant variety and creativity of the prescripts will make you wonder just what goes on in the head of the person responsible for writing them. Take a moment to think about how you would feel if you received a prescript that says, chop off your right ankle and eat it medium rare. P.S. You don't have to eat the bones. You'd think this is an absurd instruction no sane person could follow, but those who belong to the Index will feel glad that it doesn't require chopping off both feet or eating the bones. Jesus. Well, I love the Index. The Index idea is so nice. Warp cleanup crew. They ain't going to raise the ticket prices or run fewer trains like the last time, are they? What do you mean, Cap? Lobotomy Corp, the company that was supplying our energy needs, went down recently. That's a good point. It's harder to operate the trains with less energy. What do you mean by last time, though? Or you're too new to know, back in the day, L-Corp's nest was occupied by another energy company. So that company put it out and put our corporation into the same sort of energy shortage we're dealing with now? Not quite. It did go bust eventually, but it's more that the company was stingy about sharing its energy. Awfully strict too. I heard it had bad reputation among its partnered companies because they were so tight-assed about energy supply. We had to reduce the number of trains running at the time for a while. I had no idea. Don't count on me though. I also picked the story up from my superior. That's enough chittering, let's get back to work. Of course, the old L-Corp possibly harnessing the smoke monster that was lying underneath it, which must have been like a natural abnormality that came from the river or something, I guess. And Leslie's page. To restore the train, the passengers have to be in their seats. You have to be seated so the scanning program can detect your genomic data and put you back on the right seat. Oh, and the scanner has trouble reading things that are moving too much, so you should be nice and stay still in a seat. So the warp cleanup crew, like us, tidy up the carriages and put the passengers in their seats according to the genomic data. And with the press of a button, ta-da, everything goes back to normal as if nothing happened. I only learned this after I joined the corp, but isn't that so cool? That's what we agents do. It seems far too easy, but sometimes the cleanup crew isn't enough for the job. What's so scary about dealing with humans, you ask? I heard a story from my seniors. One time, a color hid their identity and snuck onto the train. What a shocker that must have been. It's our rule to stop powerful people like colors or key members of associations from boarding our warp trains, or to guide them to take first-class seats if they must board the train for a safe and smooth restoration process. Yeah, if they were in like a second-class carriage, they would just keep fighting and fighting for too long or something, I guess? I don't know. Or they wouldn't be able, like, they might be able to somehow escape, or why are they afraid of colors in the second class? I mean, I can kind of understand, but interesting. We want them to sleep without a care instead of joining in the chaos of the other carriages. That color fixer was super tricky to deal with, they told me. Most passengers started training under the color's guidance in order to attain some kind of enlightenment. All but a few of our agents were pulverized by those people before they could even see a glimpse of the color. Oh, so the color was charismatic enough to keep the people from revolting and killing themselves. Instead, being determined enough to survive until the agents arrived? That is like crazy, a crazy long time. But we aren't totally powerless against the situations. We would have gotten into so many problems otherwise, yeah? And in case things get too difficult for our agents to handle, we call R-Corp, a wing we're partnered with. I saw footage about R-Corp in our training course. It was so cool. It was my first time seeing the mercenaries in action. They'd keep pressing on and wipe the targets no matter how harsh the resistance was. It was like, wow, they really are something else. The fourth pack, was it called the Rabbit Team? Yeah, I think it was. Gotta wonder though, why rabbits of all animals? Isn't that an herbivore? What are reindeers? Aren't reindeers herbivores too? Rhinos? What do rhinos eat? And then there were the ravens, right? Were they ravens? But we didn't see them in this game. It's interesting though that Leslie seems like the Mio type of person. Yeah, she should have joined our call, but then we would have killed her like slightly later, I guess. Sense page. You thought opening gates to different dimensions was our singularity? It's actually a former singularity a fallen wing used to own. It was a very well known wing, so you probably won't recognize it even if I told you its name. Point is, that wing discovered a way to open gates between dimensions, the ability to create rifts in space. The wing sadly never knew how to utilize that stunning technology they'd found. The nest ended up falling before it could find a proper use for the singularity, and the company now known as W Corp spent a huge sum of money to purchase it. At first, people at this corp also struggled to think of a good way to use this tech. Even if it could make a big rip in space, entering it was a whole different matter. We don't know what's in there, or if it can even come back. They had no idea, but soon enough W Corp found a way to put this dimensional gate to use, which involves T Corp's technology. With the device made by T Corp that collects time installed in the train, not a single second really passes in the carriages, even if the train travels for thousands of years. It's temporal preservation or whatever. That's what they apparently use, but it's too complicated for me. Anyway, whatever happens at the train, we revert it using our singularity of restoration, and T-Corp takes the time we collect for their own singularity. We're good business partners. Also fucked up ones too. This tech isn't just used for long distance travel, it's applied to the weapons we use too. Equipment used by the agents of W Corp is specialized in tearing and cutting things apart. We can precisely leave clumps into individual pieces with the help of the space ripping technology. Yeah, I only just now noticed, but stuff like the rip space or whatever it was called page, the one with the 2 dice where the second one gets stronger if the first one wins or something, and if you have enough charge, it is all about space. I'm a dummy sometimes, most of the time. Many people are under the impression that W-Corp Singularity is quick transportation via teleportation. That's how our technology is advertised to the public. Anyway, they aren't strictly wrong, we're just hiding the bigger picture from them. W-Corp Singularity is the restoration of a previous status. To put it in layman's terms, even if your body is crushed to a pulp, it can be restored to a recorded state as long as all the pieces remain. Oh, so that's why they freak out if anything leaves the train. That's why they were so concerned about Olga and stuff leaving, because if they'd taken anything with them, they would have had like a lot of problems on their hands, because it wouldn't have been the same state it was before. If they had left stuff like Tomari leaving as well, fucks him up, because Tomari was made out of so many different people. And the puppets leaving. God, they had a real problem on their hands just because of the library and the ensemble. First off, we scan the molecular structures, genomic data, and other information of the passengers required for the restoration when they sit on their seats. The scanned data is stored in the transmission device inside the train, ready to be sent to the restoration machine. With that, any and all kinds of pandemonium into which the carriages may have turned can be reverted with a single button. The machine has difficulty scanning lifeforms that move too much, so we need to take measures to subdue it. As with all singularities, it has small side effects. Some might leave the train with slightly more weight than before, or gain a bit of height. No one has filed a complaint about it, likely because the change is so minor that they just shrug it off as a matter of feelings. Like the body feeling lighter because of the excitement for going on a trip, or it feeling heavier because they ate too much prior to boarding the train. That is interesting. The passengers don't remember what happened inside the train, but that's not because we use amnestics. It's the restoration procedure reverting the people's memories to a previous state rather than selectively erasing them. In plain language, everything goes back to how it was when it was scanned. The passengers will continue the conversations they were having when they first boarded the train, as if nothing happened. They won't notice any oddity or displacements in their dialogue. Any thoughts they had or words they were about to speak will be restored and resumed seamlessly. Cool. Smiling faces. The rules of the back streets don't work in the nest, and the opposite's also true. You could drag a high up working for whatchamacallit from the nest to the back streets and do what's it to them, and get away with it, as long as it was during the night in the back streets and no sneaky rat saw you doing it. But if you did the same what's it in the nest, you'd be breaking rules. The night in the back streets is only a thing in the back streets, like the name suggests. Thank you, smiling face. Me. There's this one rule that stands squarely in this nigh lawless land. Doing any kind of harm to the residential area is forbidden. No invading people's homes, no demolishing them and all that. Not even the big and tough crooks of the fingers can touch this. I'm guessing they decided it's gotta stay the most what's-it place. If you didn't know, the city's taboos are a huge deal. It's much more serious than taboos of the nest. You break it and your life's over right then and there. Back streets aren't some unlivable mess like some folk are saying, you see? Rough things do happen often around here, but there's some effort of peacekeeping going on to stop a whole lot of people dying all the fucking time. Every area of the streets has some kind of neighborhood watch made out of local residents voluntarily doing jobs like fixers do, trying to make the back streets a safer place. Unlike the so-called Public Safety Association that starts with a C, whatever that stuffy org is called, the neighborhood watch ain't chained to any official authority, nor do they ask for huge fees. Each area's got different styles of neighbors, so not everyone in every corner of the town likes them. Most folks do appreciate that they're keeping us safe though. And wang. They call the back streets unsafe because that's one time of day when darkness comes out and your friendly neighborhood watch can't do jacks about it. The night in the back streets, when the city shuts its eyes. Breaking any rules are forgiven during that time. It means to protect yourself from harm like recording videos or hiring peacekeepers, or rendered useless. And those rusty old fellas sweep every corner of the streets so no evidence is left behind. No corpses, no weapons, no nothing. Not only do all the security measures stop picking at folk as a whole is banned during these hours. Well, stumbling on the scene of crime ain't banned. What it really means is, we ain't supposed to record videos of the scene or spy it with security cams. No one should be strolling the streets that late in the night in the first place. Because of that, they don't ask a darn thing about crimes happening during that time. Unless an eyewitness shows up. You just can't, if I'm being blunt. Public institutions, you know the deal, those shucks at the head, fixed associations, vigilance peeps and the like. One of those officials tried to take a dig at something that happened during the night in the back streets. Some scary fellas called the Claws go after them. And here the night in the back streets is considered a what's-up time for doing whatchamacallit permitted by the head. I've got no dang clue why they set a time like this when every soul's here already frightened to the bone. No matter what folks say, the night in the back streets starts at 3:13 and ends at 4:43. They're too early or late by a single second every time. And the crying children. It's gonna be a good one. I think I skimmed through this before because I was interested actually. Sorry, I get how you feel, but I'll need more time to think about this. This is Una saying it, of course, rejecting good old cuck Philip. Poor boy. Poor boy. Shouldn't call him a cuck. God, poor guy. Are you feeling down? No, I'm fine. Dropping spaghetti everywhere. I get it. I was rather sudden and you'll need some time to collect your thoughts. Thanks for understanding. You know, you're a very caring person. I guess Gramps picked the right rookie to hire. Is that so? Thank you. I couldn't say anything beyond that. I tried to think positively about it, convincing myself that I wouldn't want to see Sun Bei feel troubled because of me in the future. Clinging onto it further would only make me seem pathetic. Although Sun Bei didn't decline my confession outright, it felt safer to think of it as a refusal, so I wouldn't get my head in the clouds and make another attempt at it. I shouldn't have held any expectations in the first place. I thought I'd feel like a load had been taken off my chest after I confessed my pent-up feelings to her, but I couldn't even bring myself to look Sun Bei in the eyes. I didn't see it. I found myself looking for excuses. It's not because I'm a coward. You are. It's not because I was afraid. You were. That I might be faced with darkness that I can't possibly handle if I lift my head. No. I just looked at the shade so I could see a brighter light, that's all. The thought made me feel a bit easier. I don't know what expression Sun Bei wore at the time. Was she grinning at my nonsense or was she upset? All I can think is that she was probably giving me a look of disgust. You gave a fine speech, but I must wonder if you're truly upset for the sake of Salvador and your other late colleagues. I'll go prepare myself. I closed the door on my way out. Was it because I didn't want to hear any more of it? Did I lack the energy to refute him? I had no time to reflect on the reason I left my seat. The one thing I couldn't stand was him putting the blame on me for leaving my master and Sun Bei behind in that place they called the library when I escaped so that I could bring others to save them. A wise person once said that you must close your ears when someone utters useless words or speaks with harmful intention. Is the uselessness of a talk determined solely by one's own standards? Maybe Oscar was right, but are his words useless and wrong because they distressed me? Maybe I just didn't want to accept it, consoling myself that I need some time to focus only on the grief of losing my master and Sun Bei. I covered my ears. The first one was about covering his eyes, by the way, this one is about covering his ears. Pausing it at just the right moment, like it's a rerun you've watched over and over. There's got to be a reason. Shut up. Shut the hell up. Sometimes the human brain has difficulty telling reality from illusion. Watching a horror film incites fear, even though you know it's fiction. However, it's not always easy to discern the truth. They're standing right before my eyes reproaching me, but I can't dismiss them as mere illusions, even though they're dead, gone. There was no way they could be real. It doesn't make sense that I know what they're talking about. What they're about to say otherwise. Could be something they told me beforehand. When Sun Bei was about to speak, I shut her up, as though I knew what was going to unfold. What could I gain from uttering what will harm me? Self-justification? Those words would have wounded me for sure, but they were also words that would protect me. Yet again, I'm running away from truth. Vilifying others made me feel a bit better. Emily was right. All I had to do was make up reasons that are convenient to me. It's not my fault at all. They're the bad ones. It's derisive how shallow my admiration for my master and Sun Bei was, changing my attitude towards them so easily out of selfish self-preservation. Nothing is more beautiful than knowing the truth, and therefore, nothing must be more shameful than admitting that what one believed in was a lie. I could have sworn I acknowledged my vice and embraced it. Although the process was a little unstable, I still felt ashamed for the truthless deeds I had done, and I decided to cherish that negative part of myself as I am. Or so I thought. I stopped talking. I couldn't even tell what was appropriate to speak anymore. Here we go, the speak one. Turn a blind eye to all that tries to hurt me. Turn a deaf ear to words that will lead me down the wrong path. Turn a mute mouth to unnecessary evil. And last of all, act not. Make myself happy that way. I could no longer perceive anything. Man, the story of Philip alone would have been such a good story to tell in a video game or in any other medium. Because there's so much to take from it that if I started now, the video would be even longer, so we need to go to the others. A plain lineage cutthroat's page. Lane lineage. Do I pronounce this right? Is it lineage or lineage? Isn't known for coordination. It's little more than a cohort of people who have nowhere else to go, or those who carry the intent to murder someone. Most who seek to join us sit at lowly social positions. It's not rare for such people to hold a deadly grudge against someone. You'd best behave before those who are more skilled than you. We may be a band of murderous ruffians, but we understand our place. Bamboo-headed Kim doesn't seem that bad. We value the art of violence more than anything here. Those with an unscathed body are not permitted to join us. A swordsman who does not have a single blade scar on his skin is doubtlessly too careful when he wields his weapon, and his inane hesitation will be an obstacle. Too irresolute to endure the wounds on his own blade would relieve, let alone the assault of others. A body free of scars is proof of cowardice. Alas, it would be wise not to expose your wounds outside of those on your face. And the Seven Association. We've heard about them before, like they're the ones doing the... oh god, what was it? Section 3 feels empty these days. Or didn't you hear in the news? Many of them died in that incident with the distortion last time. Even the guy we counted on resigned and ran off. Right, that happened. I guess that's why the empty seats felt even more noticeable. He seemed pretty refreshed and relaxed on his last day. I wonder why he quit though. Sure, the work here can be tough, but isn't it still easy compared to some others? Gotta agree with that, beats having to worry about getting axed all the time. Rumor says he went on to join with the musicians of Bremen! Oink! It's Oink! Where would he join that weird funky band? You tell me. Maybe there was something more important than making a fortune and spending the rest of his life in comfort for him. And Dante. Which I assume is a woman? But the name is a man's name, isn't it? It's a very cool page, and I tried to work around it, but it just... again, I couldn't make it work, just like the chain link, guys. Seven Association deals with info and investigations. We collect all kinds of information in this city. Though, why we aren't disclosing the full details about certain cases to the general public through news outlets or anything you ask? Some things are better left unknown, for the sake of the safety of this world. Yeah. Seven Association is pretty cool. Information gathering. They're most likely... well, if they did report about their findings, they would be the closest thing we have to journalists, I guess? But they're kind of like, what do you call investigative journalists? But again, they don't disclose the findings, so it's all for naught. It's basically just to make money. Which, hey, that seems like journalism in 2021. Weird. Let's end on that note. Next video, which might not be next week. I have no idea in which order I'm gonna upload these, or what I'm gonna do, or what I still have to do at this point in time. But the next credenza will be about the star of the cities, or rather the stars of the city, and the Imperitas Civitatis, with the Hannah Association, and the Reverberation Ensemble. Wait, where is... don't we have the Black Silences page somewhere? That's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Next time. Bye everyone. Bye-bye.